बिस्मिल्लाह रहमान रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू ग्रान कतुन को स्तासु कोरबा वकास शाह स्तासु पदराने खिदमत के हाजिर प्रोग्राम क्रॉस टॉक की कदरमन कतुन को नन मुंगा खसूसी खबरन को आगा बाद अफगानिस्तान वाले सरिया द रीजन वाले सरबई दो अफगानिस्तान न मुंगा ता चिकमुस मुंग रीसेंट डेवलपमेंट्स गुरु द तालिबानो द टेकोर न रुस्तो तकरीबन दो दुनिम का लोशवल न मुंगा ता द स्टोरे यो साइड वन साइड ऑफ द पिक्चर मुंगा तराजी او دویم پکچر نه راځي یا موږ ته کمپلیټ پکچر نه راځي په افغانستان کې د طالبانو یا د امارت اسلامي دا داوره چې دغلته حالات ټیک دي امن او امان قایم شوی دی خلک خوشاله دي بل طرف ته د طالبانو د رژیم یا د امارت اسلامي مخالفین دا وایي چې نه د افغانستان خلک تنګ دي د افغانستان خلکو ته روزګار نه ملاویږي او د امن او امان حوالې سره هم هغوی کوېسچن وخت په وخت باندې هغوی اوچتوي هم مونږ نن هڅه کړې وه چې مونږ په افغانستان کې برسر پیکار د طالبان حکومت خلاف چې کوم مسلح جدوجہد کوي لګیا دی یا کوم ریزسټنس دی آرمډ ریزسټنس نیشنل ریزسټنس فرنٹ چې هغې ته ان آر اف هم ویلی شي د ان آر اف چې کوم د فورن ریلیشنز هیډ دی علي میسم نظري صاحب نو هغې سره مونږ مرکه کوو د هغې نه مونږ پوښتنه کوو چې په افغانستان کې ایکچوال صورتحال څه دی چې دنیا ته کوم پکچر راځي نو هغه څومره کلیر دی هغه څومره صحیح دی ریسپیکټډ علي میسم نظري welcome to Khyber TV. We are highly obliged to have you on our screen.
Alaikum assalam, brother. I have to thank you for having me today.
Why did Ashraf Ghani government collapse?
Well, Ashraf Ghani's government was doomed to fail and collapse from day one, meaning in 2014, when he became president through a fraudulent election and through rigged elections. And we predicted that his presidency would be doomed to fail and would collapse ultimately. Of course, it was accelerated with the negotiations and the agreement that was signed between the Taliban and the United States, and of course, consequently, the withdrawal that happened in 2021 that created a vacuum and allowed the government to ultimately collapse. However, the number one factor why Afghanistan collapsed and basically state institutions disintegrated and the country weakened was Mr. Ashraf Ghani becoming the president of Afghanistan in 2014.
Okay, but how is it possible for an army of over 300,000 strength to be defeated by a few thousand guerrilla fighters? We have been told time and again that US and NATO had invested billions of dollars in military hardware and their quality training. Why did the Afghan National Army or why didn't Afghan National Army stand to Taliban?
Well, there's many reasons, but one reason that doesn't exist, and we cannot say it's a reason that caused the collapse of Afghanistan's armed forces, is the Taliban. The Taliban did not defeat them, they did not conquer Afghanistan, but Afghanistan was handed over to them. Yet the reason why Afghanistan's armed forces fragmented and it's collapsed by August 2021 was for many reasons. One was Mr. Ashraf Ghani's distrust in his own armed forces, Mr. Ashraf Ghani's efforts in purging Afghanistan's armed forces from its capable commanders and officers and of course soldiers as well, and limiting their ability to fight against terrorist forces. This is one reason. The second reason is the model that was adopted for Afghanistan's armed forces by the United States and other NATO countries. It wasn't a model that was sustainable for a country like Afghanistan. Afghanistan's armed forces was highly dependent on contractors, highly dependent on technology, highly dependent on the presence of NATO itself inside Afghanistan. So it wasn't self-sustainable in the long term. And once the United States decided to withdraw from the country, we saw that the process of disintegration and fragmentation of the armed forces accelerated. Of course, as the U.S. Announced its final withdrawal in April of 2021, the contractors that were very much maintaining every part of the armed forces were the first to leave the country. And so, however, Afghanistan's armed forces proved their resilience, proved their will and determination to fight terrorist forces in the last 2 decades, especially in the last 10 years of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, where the armed forces lost more than 60,000 forces. So they paid the ultimate sacrifice defending their country and people. However, it was the decision of NATO to have adopted a model that wasn't sustainable, and of course their decision to withdraw from the country that very much pulled the carpet off their feet in 2020 and 2021. And of course, many decisions that Mr. Ashraf Ghani made, especially his micromanagement, him taking away authority from the ministries like the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, from the NDS, and many other of the security sector. So these were very much the reasons why on August 15th the military collapsed. However, as you may know, on August 15, 2021, thousands of Afghanistan's brave soldiers and officers came to the north, came to Panjshir, came to Andarab in northern Afghanistan in the Hindu Kush Mountains. And with those forces, with the remnants of Afghanistan's army, special forces, police force, we were able to form the National Resistance Front of Afghanistan.
All right. International community showered so much praise on Dr. Ashraf Ghani. In fact, he wrote a book also on failed states. How do you rate Ashraf Ghani as a president and supreme commander of the National Army, of the Afghan National Army NA? Had he not flee Kabul, do you think things would have been better, different, and Kabul wouldn't have fell to the Taliban?
Well, in our perspective, Mr. Ashraf Ghani was the worst president and leader that Afghanistan has ever had, especially in its most recent history. He lost many opportunities. He himself, with his ethnocentric and egocentric policies, alienated and marginalized most of Afghanistan's people. He only gave power to a small clique, to a small group of advisors who were highly corrupt. He first, very much encouraged pervasive corruption. He avoided bringing reforms within the government. He didn't have a vision for all of Afghanistan's people. He very much alienated Afghanistan's neighbors. His policies towards Afghanistan's neighbors was out of touch with the realities on the ground, and very much increased hostilities in the region. He very much worsened Afghanistan's relationship with even NATO, which was present inside Afghanistan. Just compare the security situation from 2014, when he first, so towards the end of 2014, when he first became president, and a year after his presidency, the first anniversary of his presidency in 2015. In 2014, most of Afghanistan was safe and secure, especially northern Afghanistan, western Afghanistan, central Afghanistan, and even parts of eastern Afghanistan. Yet 1 year after his presidency, on the first anniversary of his presidency, the Taliban terrorist group was able to take a major city, which was Kunduz. So it just shows the negative effect that his rise to power had. And of course, his rise to power wasn't through the will of Afghanistan's people. It was through, of course, through a industrial scale fraud. It was through deception. It was through the support of others, not the people of Afghanistan. And so his government from day one lacked the legitimacy that it needed. Citizen would have lived peacefully, coexisted peacefully with equal rights in the country. And this, as every year passed, we saw that these marginalized groups went and joined the Taliban terrorist group because that was the only alternative. And so we saw a trend as every year passed since 2014. Afghanistan experienced more instability, that the terrorist activities of the Taliban increased throughout the country. And ultimately, this accelerated once the United States started its negotiations and its withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2019 onwards.
All right. Sir, do you think Doha Agreement and US NATO withdrawal paved the way for Taliban takeover of August 15? By the way, today is Doha Agreement 4th anniversary as well.
Of course, as I stated before, the negotiations, the agreement that was signed, and of course, subsequently the hasty withdrawal, all of this accelerated the fall of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. However, even before this happened, Afghanistan's government was losing legitimacy because of Mr. Ghani. Yet, the United States direct deal with a terrorist group from 2019 onwards gave legitimacy to the Taliban terrorist group and their affiliates and the groups that are aligned with them. And of course, accelerated the fall of Afghanistan because, as I mentioned, Afghanistan's armed forces was highly dependent on the presence of NATO, especially on the presence of contractors. And once the United States and other NATO countries started pulling out of Afghanistan, it created vacuums throughout the country. And of course, the country was handed over to the Taliban once this vacuum was created. Yet Afghanistan's armed forces, the people of Afghanistan, fought bravely against their enemies. And as I mentioned, Afghanistan's people lost more than 60,000 sons fighting and daughters fighting terrorist forces in the last decade of the Republic. But of course, the Doha agreements and the withdrawal, they accelerated the fall of Afghanistan and gave a terrorist group the means and the opportunity to come to power.
All right. But sir, why during these 20 long years, presence of US, NATO and other countries with world-class military hardware and advanced technology, Taliban couldn't be eliminated? What do you think were the reasons, or they had public support? Taliban, when they were fighting?
Of course, the Taliban terrorist group never had public support inside Afghanistan. They were always a small group. They're still a small group. They cannot claim to represent Afghanistan's people. As you see today, as every day passes, the gap between them and the people are widening. For example, the National Resistance Front of Afghanistan, after August 15th, when we first started a dialogue with the Taliban, we told them, let's have a referendum. Let's allow the people of Afghanistan to decide if they want the Taliban's vision, the Taliban's model of governance, or if they want our model. They disagreed. They refused to do this because they know the people of Afghanistan, the vast majority, are not going to vote for what the Taliban wants. The reason in the last 20 years why we've had so many failures, it's not that everything that happened in the last 20 years was a failure. No, we had a very educated generation that grew up in the last 20 years. A civil society grew out of the last 20 years. We've had social transformation, we've had cultural transformation, and so forth. Yet politically, the reason why Afghanistan failed wasn't because the Taliban had legitimacy and support within the population. It was because both governments, both presidencies in the last 20 years were weak. One. Two is the system of the political system inside Afghanistan. Basically, the Constitution of 2004 gave all power to one individual, which was the president. If in the last 20 years we could have had a more decentralized political system, which Pakistan has, I would be sure today that the republic wouldn't have collapsed as it did in 2021, and that we would have had a stronger state, and the republic would have never experienced the collapse that it did in 2021. The reason why Afghanistan's government weakened as every day passed is because the president, especially as I said, Ashraf Ghani, concentrated power and centralized power in his own office. He did not share power. He didn't have the view that everyone should be part of policy making and decision making. And as every year passed, this marginalized and sidelined communities and people, and gave an opportunity for this group to exploit this and to recruit people, of course, in the last few years. Yet the system, which means a democratic Afghanistan, a republican Afghanistan, still has support within Afghanistan's population. If we have a referendum today, if the people of Afghanistan want an Islamic republic or an Islamic emirate, I'm sure the vast majority will vote for an Islamic republic, not an emirate.
Okay, there is another issue. We were told that Taliban 2.0 is an updated version. We saw so much material in shape of articles, essays, and news showing Taliban as a changed entity or as a changed group. Do you find any difference or change between Taliban 2.0 from its first tenure?
Of course, there is a change, but the Taliban of today is much worse than the Taliban of 30 years ago. The Taliban of today is not only a danger and a threat to Afghanistan's people, the Taliban of today is a danger and threat to all of Afghanistan's neighbors, especially the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, yeah, and to many other regional countries and countries on the global stage. The Taliban of today are much stronger. They have more weapons and equipment which was left behind in Afghanistan in their possession to cause more havoc, to cause more chaos, not only for the people of Afghanistan, but to our neighbors as well. They have invited more terrorist groups, whether it's regional or global terror networks. The Taliban of today is much more oppressive. They have basically erased women, meaning half of the population, from public life. They are going against the basic tenets of the holy religion of Islam. What their attitude towards women is contrary to what exists in the holy religion of Islam, and basically all of their acts are contrary to
Taliban claims
Islamic beliefs, to our cultural traditions, and to human rights and other international conventions.
Okay, but Taliban claims to have established Sharia law or Islamic government in the country. So don't you agree with their version of Islamic government or Sharia law government?
What they have established is neither an Islamic government nor Sharia law. We have no interpretation of Islam, whether it's in the Hanafi madhab or in other madhabs in Islam or in other sects of Islam. We have no belief that women should be erased from public life, that women should be banned from education, from work, or what the Taliban's attitude is towards Afghanistan's other communities. The Taliban's attitude towards other ethnic groups, towards other tribes. They are alienating, marginalizing, oppressing the vast majority of Afghanistan's people. It's only a small group with only a few tribes that are holding on to power. How is that Islamic? Islam teaches us that everyone is equal, especially all Muslims are equal. They're brothers and sisters. There is no discrimination in Islam. Yet they are going against the basic tenets of Islam with their actions, with their decisions, with their policies, and so forth. Or their attitudes towards neighboring countries, regional countries. they're actively supporting terrorist groups, regional terrorist groups that are trying to destabilize and overthrow the governments of neighboring countries. Is this something that a true Islamic government does? Especially its Muslim brothers and sisters on the other side of the border? No. So we do not believe that the Taliban have established any Islamic system, and that any of their decisions, their policies, their edicts, and so forth are connected to true Islam and to the true teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Okay, Taliban government also they bring to us that, or they through their selected media tell us that they have brought prosperity and stability to a country. Taliban government have signed multiple mega development projects over billions of dollars. For example, Amu Basin oil project with Chinese company. They are in talks for the Miss Anak copper fields project also with Chinese companies. And similarly, Tapi, Casa 1000, and so many other projects like Kosh Tepa Canal, and other. Would they be succeed in their planning or their projects?
Look, all of these are basically for publicity and for PR. None of these have been implemented. Many of them are failures, and there's many reports, especially when it comes to the canal. First of all, the canal is going to very much impact Afghanistan's relations with its neighbors, especially with its northern neighbors, to the environmental, security, and political impacts that such a project will have. Or other projects, for example, damming rivers that head towards Pakistan or Iran and other countries. So every single project, the vast majority of these contracts that are being signed and so forth, they haven't been implemented. They're, again, for PR reasons. What the Taliban, and let me give you an example of the situation, the bleak situation that Afghanistan is in today. Right now, just imagine the percentage or the number of people who are trying to acquire a passport. The ordinary people of Afghanistan. Why are they trying to acquire a passport? So they can leave the country. Look at the influx of refugees towards neighboring countries, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Iran and others. Millions of refugees today. Why are they trying to leave Afghanistan? If Afghanistan was prosperous, if Afghanistan today was experiencing peace and stability, no one would leave the country. Right now, Afghanistan is experiencing the worst humanitarian crisis in its history. And of course, this is worsening. Since 2021, as every day passes, the humanitarian crisis is exacerbating. It's not improving. With hundreds of millions of dollars that have been delivered to Afghanistan, we're not seeing any sign that the humanitarian crisis is alleviating and is improving. But it's the opposite. The economic situation inside the country, as I said, the social situation, the political situation. Right now, just imagine, half of the population is deprived from education. What is the consequences of this in a decade if this situation continues? Half of this population staying uneducated, and of course many other communities as well, or the discrimination that happens throughout the country.
So you don't agree? You don't agree with Taliban statement? So you don't agree with Taliban version that they have brought prosperity and people are happy under their rule? People are going to their businesses. There are so many jobs, and they can afford cheap education and health facilities inside Afghanistan. So you don't agree with those notions or those statements?
No, right now what is happening is a terrorist group, a criminal organization, has come to power, has been given power, has been given a country. They are aligning themselves with 21 other regional and global terror networks. They're trying to oppress Afghanistan's people, exploit Afghanistan's people as much as possible, enrich themselves, acquire as much resources and as much wealth as they can, to destabilize neighboring countries and beyond that as well, and to spread their narrow vision of regional dominance as much as possible through these other terror networks.
Okay.
The Taliban isn't an opportunity neither for the people of Afghanistan nor for anyone else in the region. They are here to very much threaten the social fabric of Afghanistan and beyond Afghanistan, especially in the region. And as long as they are here,
community and their government, and there is total independence for the minorities and different religious groups in the country. Is it true?
This is completely false, and their statements contradict their actions. And this is something that has been verified. The United Nations reports that have come out in the last 2.5 years, individual countries, and it's like broad daylight. There is nothing to hide about this. That, of course, they have marginalized the vast majority of Afghanistan's people, the ethnic groups of Afghanistan, the sectarian groups, and even the Pashtuns or Pakhtuns themselves. The vast majority of Pashtun tribes have been marginalized. Only a few tribes and a few individuals who have taken power and, of course, are oppressing the vast majority. They have not granted anyone equal rights, and they believe that the people, they do not deserve to have rights. Only a few so-called clerics have the right to make decisions for the people of Afghanistan. And the situation that they've very much brought upon the people of Afghanistan isn't in the interests of the vast majority. Just look at the examples of ethnic cleansing or displacement of people in different provinces. The mass killings in Kandahar against the Achigzai tribe, for example, against the Hazaras, against other ethnic groups in the north and elsewhere in the east, for example. In Nangarhar, there has been many tribes who have been targeted and are being massacred. So, of course, they do not take decisions, and they have not brought an order that has taken everyone's interests into consideration. And, of course, besides gender apartheid, they've established a situation where the vast majority of Afghanistan's people have been pushed aside in the margins and are being oppressed, and atrocities are committed against them. And as every day passes, the situation is worsening for them.
Taliban government claims to have eliminated armed resistance and now has full control over 100% of the territory. Do you agree with their claim? Or is there any armed resistance going on in Afghanistan?
The armed resistance is still going on. The armed resistance, not only armed resistance, but resistance itself, meaning both armed, political, civil resistance, has been going on since August 2021. As every day passes, all forms of resistance, especially armed resistance, is growing, it's expanding. Today, we have expanded to more than 15 provinces. 2 years ago, we were only in 2 provinces. Today, we're in 15 provinces of Afghanistan. We're fighting against not only the Taliban terrorist groups, we're fighting with all other terrorist groups that are aligned with them, whether it's the TTP, whether it's Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups that are aligned with them. Today, we have proven our resilience. We've proven our resolve. We've proven our reach. Just 2 nights ago, we attacked the military side of Kabul International Airport, causing and inflicting casualties on the enemy, and of course damaging many equipment, including a helicopter at the military side of Kabul Airport. And of course, compared to the previous years, the last 2 winters, this winter we've shown our capabilities, our ability to continue the fight, to continue our operations throughout the harsh winter of Afghanistan. So today we are much more prepared. We are stronger. We have the support of Afghanistan's people. And armed resistance against the Taliban and their affiliates and their aligned groups, whether it's the TTP, whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's Daesh, whether it's Jaish al-Adl and other groups, is known. And there is nothing very much, there is basically no evidence for the Taliban to promote this idea that there is no armed resistance. For example, the United Nations Security Council reports that have been published in the last year are evidence of our presence inside Afghanistan, our fight, our armed struggle to not only liberate Afghanistan, but to very much defeat regional and international terrorism, which is threatening everyone.
Okay, do you think Taliban government or the Amarat-e-Islami regime could be toppled through armed resistance? And if yes, so do you have enough resources like men and ammunition, weapons for this purpose, for this battle?
We know, we believe, and we are determined to overthrow the Taliban through resistance, through armed resistance, through political resistance, through civil resistance, and so forth. And of course, we've shown our ability, our capability, our strength, our resolve to pursue this path in the last 2.5 years. And of course, as every day passes, the Taliban are weakening, and we're becoming more stronger in our struggle for a liberated and free Afghanistan. Yet, as I pointed out in my previous answer, today Afghanistan isn't, the Taliban isn't only a threat to Afghanistan's people. The Taliban is a threat to our neighboring countries, is a threat to regional stability, is a threat to global security. And so in order for us to ultimately and more rapidly defeat the forces of terror inside Afghanistan, whether it's the Taliban, whether it's other groups, we will need the cooperation, we will need the assistance of regional countries and the international community.
What are the demands? What are your demands, or what sort of help do you want from the world powers, and especially the regional countries which you think are at the threat of Taliban or the militant groups inside Afghanistan?
Well, there's many ways that the region and, of course, that the international community can help the people of Afghanistan to defeat this terrorist group. One is preventing any sort of normalization and recognition for such a terrorist group. These people do not represent the people of Afghanistan. They don't represent the interests of the people of Afghanistan, and they're a threat to everyone. This is one way. The second way is, of course, the resistance, whether it's the National Resistance Front and others, to receive the support of regional countries and the international community to defeat the Taliban and 21 other terrorist groups that have taken haven inside Afghanistan. For example, right now, in places that we operate, in just one province, in Panjshir, there's foreign terrorist fighters inside Panjshir. There's Al-Qaeda fighters, there's the TTP and many other terrorist groups, there is Ansarullah, there is the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, all these terror networks that are being supported and assisted by the Taliban that are being transferred to Panjshir to many other northern provinces.
The question is why they support.
We will need the support of all these countries that view these groups as a threat for us to defeat them ultimately. Of course, we will be able to liberate Afghanistan and defeat the Taliban. It will just take a bit more time. Yet if we want to rapidly neutralize this threat, a threat that is not only a threat to the people of Afghanistan, but the regional countries and the international community, it has to be a joint effort. The National Resistance Front cannot do this in a timely manner. without the support of others.
Okay. As the head of NRF Foreign Relations Committee, can you tell us about your contacts, relations, or communication, whatever, if any, with Pakistan during the past 2 years, especially following Taliban takeover of Kabul?
Of course, we had diplomatic channels before August 2021. And that continued for a few weeks and months after August 2021. However, today we do not have any communication with the government of Pakistan. In early 2022, we sent a letter to the government of Pakistan. We sent a letter to other neighboring and regional countries, thanking many countries who assisted the people of Afghanistan and provided humanitarian aid and so forth, which this letter was published in one of the Pakistani media outlets back in early 2022. However, today we do not have any diplomatic relations or any type of relations with the Pakistani government.
Okay, and what are the views of NRF about Pakistan and Pakistani people, especially Pakistan was blamed to help Taliban or the Taliban fighters, and there was reports that Pakistan, some of them were residing inside Pakistan. So do you still have a deficit of trust, or you say things have gone towards from better to good?
Look, what our view is about Pakistan is Afghanistan's most important neighbor. We share our longest border with Pakistan. We are connected through many ways. We share a common culture, we share a common religion, we share a common civilization, a common history. We view Pakistan as the only inheritor and legatee of the Islamic Persianate civilization that was dominant in the Indian subcontinent for 1,000 years. We believe that Pakistan is the protector of this civilizational identity in the subcontinent. We believe the strength of Pakistan is our strength. We believe in a partnership with Pakistan, whether it's a political partnership or and an economic partnership in the future, and that stability and peace in both countries will allow better regional integration and connectivity in the future. Unfortunately, we've lost many opportunities to achieve this vision, this common vision and shared vision that even the founding fathers of Pakistan, whether it's Iqbal Lahori, whether it's Qaid al-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and others had, and even the leaders of Afghanistan in the past had, when it came to forming a strategic relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And even our previous leader, the late Commander Ahmad Shah Massoud, shared this vision, and we share this vision that basically we have to choose a route, a course that is in the interest of the people of Afghanistan and the people of Pakistan. And the only way is stability, true stability and peace for both countries, and that no one should threaten no one on both sides of the border. One thing that is apparent today is the Taliban is against this vision. They have chosen a path that it will not end up in regional integration and connectivity. It's a path that will further destabilize both Pakistan and Afghanistan. And let me make it clear, the groups that the Taliban are supporting today, especially the TTP. The TTP and the Taliban are like the sun and daylight, inseparable and defining for each other. You cannot separate these regional terror groups from the Taliban. And as long as you have the Taliban terrorist group and these other regional terror groups in power, neither Pakistan will be safe, nor Afghanistan will be safe, or other countries in the region. And for this reason, the people of Afghanistan, the people of Pakistan, and other people in the region have to come together and find a solution threat, because we share a common destiny, we share a common future.
Yes.
And for us to guarantee the existence of our nations, the sustainability of our governments, and of course to draw a new destiny and future for ourselves, which which will allow us to start a new era of amity, an era of mutual trust, an era of cooperation, of integration and connectivity. We have to work together and have to come together.
Okay. Time and again, international terror monitor groups like United Nations Security Council or others publishing reports on presence of Al-Qaeda, TTP, TIP, ETIM, ISKP, etc. in Afghanistan, but Taliban government rejects these reports. Are such reports true? And secondly, Pakistan is under attack from inside Afghanistan by TTP fighters. We call them Pakistani Taliban or Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. The scale of terrorism in Pakistan following Kabul fall or capture has increased manifold. Pakistan has provided hard evidence to the Taliban government, but they deny presence of TTP inside Afghanistan. What is NRF's stance on this issue?
Well, it's very clear. We've been saying this from day one. We even communicated to all regional countries, including the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, before August 2021, when we met many of Pakistan's diplomats, many of Pakistan's ambassadors before the collapse of the government, was that the return of the Taliban terrorist group isn't in anyone's interest, and basically they will create a condition, a situation in Afghanistan which will be not in anyone's interest. They will support, fund, and strengthen all of these regional terrorist groups and global terrorist groups, of course, as well. And that's what we've seen in the past 2.5 years. As I told you today, the Taliban are building bases for the TTP, for Al-Qaeda, for other terror groups, regional terror groups and global terror groups throughout the country. They're giving them equipment, they're giving them training, they're giving them space and of course protection to achieve their objectives. And we've seen an increase of attacks in most of Afghanistan's neighboring countries, including Pakistan. For this reason, as long as the Taliban exists, as long as the Taliban are in power, the security situation will not only worsen inside Afghanistan, it will worsen in Pakistan, it will worsen in Central Asia and in other countries as well. For this reason, it is imperative for Afghanistan's neighbors, for all regional countries, for the people of Afghanistan to come together, to reach a consensus over not only Afghanistan's future, but the region's future, to reach a common vision in order to prevent the catastrophe that will become. A catastrophe that will negatively impact not only Afghanistan, but all of Afghanistan's neighbors, including Pakistan. And the Taliban isn't a partner, isn't an ally of any of Afghanistan's neighbors, especially Pakistan. It is a threat, and the people of Afghanistan and the people of Pakistan have to come together to prevent this catastrophe that will bring chaos and of course it will prolong a conflict that is not in anyone's interest.
All right, thank you so much, Ali Masam Nazari. It was a pleasure to have you on our screen, and we will be obliged to have you again and again. Tashakkur.
Thank you very much, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. ګران کتونکو زموږ د پروګرام وخت سر ته رسید او موږ سره تاسو علي مسم نظری څوک چې د ان آر اف یا د نېشنل ریزسټنس فرنٹ د هغې د خارجه چارو د کمیټې مشر دی هډ دی نو هغې سره موږ دغه مرکه کوله. موږ کوشش کوو چې کوم ریجنل ایشوز دي کوم سوالونه دي هغه ټول پوښتنه دي نه وکړو. تر بیا د الله په امان.